I'm like, I'm a drummer. Why am I designing a record sleeve? What's happening?
This is Joe Wong. Welcome to the Trap Set, where each week we explore the lives of drummers. I want to play something for you. You're hearing I Am Here by Savages, featuring my guest, Fay Milton on drums. A classically trained percussionist, Fay's adventurous compositional sensibility and keen sonic sensitivity helped Savages become one of the most exciting and critically lauded bands of the last decade. Aside from her work with Savages, Fay also co-leads 180 dB. She was also featured in a recent Sky Arts documentary, The Art of Drumming. I spoke to Fay in Soho, London, after a recent performance with comedian Fred Armisen. And now my conversation with Fay Milton.
I started playing when I was about 8, I think. But I started playing like orchestral percussion, like xylophones and timpani.
What was the impetus to start?
My best friend started, and I did everything she did, so I started as well.
Does your best friend still play?
She still has drums in her house, in her flat, but she's not. It's not her job. She works at London Zoo. That's her calling in life.
In the monkey cage.
In the monkey cage. Yeah. Well, we grew up always sort of playing music together. I remember us in recorder group when we were probably about 8 or 9. Like we always had these like tiny recorders, the piccolo, like higher pitch than everything else, and we'd detune them.
I have a tenor recorder.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is it? Is it cool? I don't know.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I like it.
Yeah, we had the little piccolo ones, and we would detune them from each other and everyone else purposefully and play them really loud to make a really horrible sound. It was very early punk. Fuck the system.
Well, so you mentioned that working at the zoo is your best friend's calling in life. When did music feel like your calling in life?
I think it always did. And then it's that thing, you grow up and things are really simple. You're like, oh, I'm going to be a musician. And then I think there's different realities to that. I grew up playing like classically, and it can sort of channel you to a really, really narrow mindset of like you can either play in an orchestra or nothing, or be a soloist, which is very rare, or nothing. So I kind of lost faith in it and thought, well, I'm not a soloist. I'm not cut out to be an orchestral percussionist forever. That's not me.
Just because of the predictability?
I think it was like most of my teachers I had really amazing percussion teachers, but one of the teachers I had at the very end, he was this guy, and he would be like, oh, in the business, these guys, they're shit hot. I don't know, he just made it seem like this inaccessible world, and it was like, probably felt like it was populated by men, and not that was like a huge thing.
Not like the rock world, right?
Lol. But I don't know, it just felt really inaccessible, like you have to be this superhuman to enter that world, and that was like really drummed into me in my last sort of few years of school and stuff, like, oh, I'm probably not good enough to do this. So I stopped for ages, like completely.
So did you study at university as well?
Yeah, I studied music.
Yeah.
But I didn't really play percussion much. But in fact, that's absolute... Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
That's absolute bullshit. I did. I played like
You mean bollocks?
Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. I played samba, and my university has so like huge resources of like, they had a samba, like several samba band sets of drums, like sets of African drums. They had 3 gamelans, like 3 gamelan.
Where did you go to university?
And it's really straight-laced university
Oxford.
in the city. No, City of London.
Okay.
Like, not City, it's called City University, but it's like almost everyone at the university is studying to be a business person.
A finance person.
A finance person. Yeah, it's basically all of the people that I studied with probably caused the financial crash.
They're just terrible people.
Yeah. And then there's this like super weird music course with like masses of kooky resources.
What were your aspirations at the time?
Oh God, I just figured that I would probably work in Soho, which is where we are now, in some kind of creative job and wear nice clothes and like walk along the pavement eating a bagel. That was like my vague idea of what I thought I would probably
That's
be
pretty
doing.
specific, actually. You even pictured the exact type of bread that you were going to eat.
Little did I know that gluten would take that away from me. No,
You can't eat gluten.
No, yeah, I'm one of them. Yeah.
You are?
I am, yeah.
By choice, or you actually have
God,
celiacs?
No, I love bread. No, I'm not. There's. It's not one or the other. It's not choice, but I'm not celiac.
Okay. You just don't
One
eat it.
bite and it's a bellyache for a week.
Oh,
Like, it's really not worth it.
okay.
Yeah.
What was your focus at school?
I got a science degree in music. Super weird. Like, we did loads of like super complicated weird stuff about how samplers work, like the internal workings of them, like synthesizers, all the circuitry and stuff like that.
So did you build all of that stuff as well?
No, I just learnt it, and now I can't even operate a synthesizer.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it change the way that you thought?
Yeah, completely. Studying was amazing that way. It like opened my mind. It opened my mind to the point where I stopped playing because I'd learned classically and I was like, okay, I've now learned Afro-Cuban styles. I've now learned samba styles, gamelan, like 20th century classical music, and 21st century. Like,
Sounds like your piccolo recorder was 21st
I think it
century
was
music.
like proper squeaky gate music. But yeah, I just saw how narrow everything I'd been doing to that point was, and I was like, oh, this is shit. I need to do something else. So I got into like doing film. I was a VJ for a bit, doing video projections for other musicians. And then
Which musicians?
I did stuff for Jose Gonzalez at some point. Who else? Trevor. It's like a really weird bunch of people. Trevor Nelson, who's this British DJ. The Heritage Orchestra. Do you know them? Yeah, that was good fun doing stuff for them.
How did you learn how to do that? From your synthesis classes, or was it video synthesis that you were doing?
No, I was just kind of making stuff and projecting it. I don't know. I think it was just like turning what I heard musically into something that you can see visually. And it was really a musical process, but expressing that visually. And I do a lot of stuff with live cameras and things. And when you're mixing it live, it's almost like you're kind of performing. It's like an improvisation in its own way. I think I was basically just circling around music for a long time before actually realising that I should be doing music.
How did that realization happen?
It was a breakup, I think. I was going out with a musician, and it was always like there was this world of like the musicians, and they were like the musician guys and girls, and then there was other people, and it was like this weird time, like kind of like between 2005 and 2008, and there's like so many indie bands in the UK, and it was like that scene, and I just found this like welling up of like resentment that I'd put so much of my life into music, and then there were these people who were like really quite shit for playing and being celebrated, especially watching drummers and just being like, that's so rubbish, and everyone being like, oh, it's amazing, wow, that band is so great, and like, Jesus, they're really not that good. So rather than like let that eat away at me, I think when that breakup came, I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna.
Because you thought that your ex was rubbish and was being celebrated? It was a spite thing?
Not specifically. I really liked his music, and that's like how I met him in the first place. But No, it was just the whole world of like, it was an us and them, and I wasn't part of it. I was like excluded because I wasn't like an indie musician or whatever. And that sounds like a really dumb thing to say, but it probably feels like that it doesn't feel like that for me anymore because I do music as a job, and that's cool. But it must feel like that for a lot of people standing on the outside thinking, I want to do this, but it's like a clique and it's for other people, and it just isn't.
This episode of The Trap Set is brought to you in part by Colectivo Coffee. Handmade coffee since 1993. Check them out online at colectivo.com.
What did you do?
I moved to Australia and had a flat in Melbourne, and I put a drum kit in it, and I stayed there for 4 months and just played the drums.
Had you had a drum kit before?
I had one, yeah, but I never really played it. And I didn't really ever like connect with like playing the kit. I always like saw everything as like individual instruments. And then, yeah, so I got a drum kit, just like played it for 4 months, probably destroying the neighbours' ears.
Like all day long?
Yeah, a lot of the day. And then I was also like working in an internet cafe. Just like,
why did you choose Australia?
I met some really nice people and they lived there, so I just thought, why not?
It also seems like a nice thing to do if you're just recently broken up with somebody, to just get out of town for a while. Also,
because in my head it was going to be full of like surfer dudes who are really cool, but like, I don't know if you've been to Melbourne, but it's really not like that at all.
You didn't meet any hot surfer dudes? No. What about at the internet cafe?
No, really no.
Web surfers?
Web surfers only. Yeah, no, just like, it's just like a hot East London basically. But really nice.
What do you mean by that for people that don't have the context?
Quite hipster. And, well, I mean, I haven't been to Melbourne for a while, it might have changed, but I was expecting this, like, proper Australian, like, I'd had zero research. And it was...
You basically watched Crocodile Dundee and got on an airplane.
And I've watched, what's that TV program that I love, Bondi Rescue?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be Bondi Rescue, and it was, like, just loads of cool kids in shades. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine, that will do. But, yeah.
And after the 4 months, what did you do next?
What did I do next? I came back to London. I had this like studio space at the time, and I kept my drummers in there. And I tried to make a band with my dear friend Dan Neeson. And we were trying to do that for a while with another friend, Anna, as well. And then it just went round in circles, and we didn't quite like make that happen. And I remember having a conversation with Dan, who was always like the guy who would tell me like, you can do this, you're really good at the drums, I promise you can do it. He's like really the person who sort of gave me the confidence to do it. He's like, you need to find a different band, like you need to find new people who are going to push you. And then a few weeks later, because I felt really lost of it, it's like, I really want to do something, I'm ready, but it's not happening. I played some shows also with Dee from Robots in Disguise and her solo stuff, which was great. I was like, I need to get my teeth into something. And then someone put me in touch with the other Savages girls who just recently formed, like a few weeks previous, and needed a drummer.
And then what happened?
And then I met up with them, and Gemma needed a strawberry milkshake, so we walked around most of East London looking for a strawberry milkshake, which we eventually found. Yeah, and then I just liked the directness of what their objectives were, just like make fast, loud music. And I thought the name was great, so I was like...
They already had the name,
yeah.
They had the concept.
Yeah.
And how did you fit into that dynamic creatively? I think I
I think I came along playing things that it wasn't really what was required of me. Like, what was required was probably to just play, like, a straight kind of post-punky straight beat. And I remember the first couple of rehearsals being a bit like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I actually don't enjoy playing like that. So, I mean, I do play, I mean, maybe what I'm saying is a bit confusing, but having, like, a tiny bit of friction, being like,
You had this
quite
sophisticated edge to the fast, loud music.
I think we all had the sophisticated edge.
They're all savages, and you're like the colonist.
No, I think I'm the savage. No, I don't know. I don't know. It's like, I think there's always been this thing of like, oh, can you just play like a straight beat so we can just all do our parts? And it's like, no, I want to really write some cool stuff as well.
Mm-hmm. Do you think of yourself like a composer when you're coming up with the beats?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
When did you know that the band was working?
Our first gig was really good. We supported, what are they called? British Sea Power. And I'd never played a show like for a proper PA before. And we all went on stage and like played. And it wasn't a tiny venue, it was like quite packed. And British Sea Power were really popular. It was out in Brighton, they're hugely popular down there. So it was like absolutely filled to the rafters with people. And everyone just fucking loved it. We just walked off stage like, wow, I remember just hearing our sound like amplified for the first time. It was like, shit, I think this is really going to work.
Were you working another job at the time as well?
Yeah, well, at this point, I was like a video producer. So I was like, the turning point came where like I was supposed to be producing a series for like Converse thing, and instead I was in the series as one of the bands, but I had to choose which. It's like I can't be in it and produce it, so I had to choose. It's a pretty obvious choice, but...
Was it obvious?
Yeah, of course, yeah. That feeling you get when you play a good show, and that was also exciting to me. It was no contest, but it was definitely a pay cut.
Right. Is it still?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When you were recording your album, what was your approach? Your first album?
Well, when writing the parts, I was just really imaginative because it was like my first album that I'd written. So it was like all of the things, just pulling stuff out of nowhere. And it's...
Was it stressful in any way? Or
writing our first record. I think a lot of the writing got done really quickly, mm-hmm. without us really thinking much about it before our first show or before we really knew what was happening. It all happened quite naturally. And then recording was great. Just played the songs, basically. Yeah.
Do you feel like when you're playing, are you mostly instinctual, or intellectual?
That's interesting. Because I'm quite, like, nerdy about how... Like,
do you hear
I feel
the
like
part
there's
in your
an
mind?
Instinctual mathematics.
Yes.
In a way. So working out how a part works, say with the bass line, it's like, well, I can't put a beat there because that beat's there and it needs to coincide in this way. And it's like, I kind of almost see it as a maths puzzle, mm-hmm. but in an instinctive way.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so both?
Yeah, kind of both, yeah.
When somebody, like a relative that's not privy to the rock scene, asks you what your band is, how do you describe it?
Oh, you know what's hilarious? Is that, like, we always hate being described as, like, an all-female band. But honestly, if I have to describe us, I will just mention that. And then I catch myself doing it. Because it's really descriptive. It's just straightforward. Mm-hmm. And because the norm, when someone thinks band, they think guys, usually. And so it's like...
Which is why, nobody ever says I'm in an all-male band.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at some point, maybe they will, because there's so many great female bands now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, at this point, it's still worth mentioning that female. I don't know. I don't know. I say loud. I say rock.
When did you feel like you were successful as an artist?
Honestly, like, I was done. We played our first show. It went well. I was like, that's all I set out to do. That was my, like, I'm going to fucking do this. And I was like, oh, I've done it. That's great. And then everything else is a bonus.
Do you ever doubt yourself?
All the time. Yeah, all the time.
Like, how does that manifest? What are the thoughts?
So, for example, I went to the screening yesterday of, what's it called?
The Sky series.
The Sky series is about drummers, the art of drumming. And it's like they interviewed 38 drummers, I think. And it's like amazing people. Ginger Baker was there at the screening. He's part of it. And
did you hang out with him?
No, I had to leave and come do the thing with a friend.
You should have brought him.
I know. I was hoping, but I'm scared of him.
Yeah, with good reason.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? Yeah, and then watching clips of this show of all these amazing, incredible drummers, and they're all like playing their chops and like all this stuff, and it's like, I don't know, there's loads of stuff with Chad Smith, and he's just like laying down these like fat beats, and you're like, fucking hell, that's great. And then I'm like, why am I part of this? I'm not even a drummer compared to these people.
What's the answer? Why are you a part of it?
Well, then you're like, oh, maybe they're just making up the numbers and they couldn't think of any other girls. No, but
is that what you believe? Or?
No, it's not. It's not. It's just that feeling of like, I guess it's some kind of imposter syndrome of like, what? This is ridiculous. I know there's like stuff that I do. Okay, so I watched a band last night called Goat Girl, and their drummer is fucking cool. Like, technically, she's all over the place, but watching her play is really fucking enjoyable because she just really throws herself at it. And like watching that, it's like, well, I guess I have the same appeal in that sense because I think I'm quite fun to watch. I'm quite expressive. But yeah, I need to work on my chops. But I think, I think lots of drummers think this though. Like, you can see the best drummer ever, and they're like, "Oh, I'm still working on stuff. I need to."
Well, yeah, I think it's important to work on stuff, but chops. Isn't that like a poet trying to expand their vocabulary?
Yeah, maybe.
It seems almost irrelevant.
Yeah, it does. It does. But then I don't know. It's just that I'd really, really love to be able to be like more solid on the drums.
What do you work on right now?
Well, it's really tough in London to like have a drum kit anywhere. I've got my drums stored at like a rehearsal studio, but it's like you have to lug them out and pay money and other stuff. So I have V drums at home. So I play on them. Well, at the moment, I'm working on my new project, which is 180 dB. It's me and the bassist from Savages. And what I'm loving doing is just being able to record drums straight out of my V drums into Logic or whatever, and have a great sounding played by human drum kit without having to get someone else to do it, without having to go into a recording studio. You can just have an idea, play it, and then start laying stuff over it straight away, which is really cool.
She's done it again. I rise from the dead. I touch myself and I think about power. When all said and done, I shake like a dog. I lick off the water. I question your sources. There's some sort of job here. No hand in the prefix. Behind closed doors, you breathe burning wool. Then I pick up the check. I put my fur coat on, drop a match on the table. Leave my drugs with your girl, 'cause I'm an upshot. And yes, I'm paranoid. Hard times, some bitch. You don't know what pushback is.
So Savages made 2 full-length records, and
Yes.
you're on a bit of a hiatus right now.
Yes, that's right.
Why did you choose to go on hiatus?
I think we're all doing different things, basically. It was really intense for like 6 years. We didn't really stop between records. And yeah, we wanted to sort of find different routes. Our singer's doing a solo record, I believe. She also...
As singers are wont to do.
As singers are wont to do. Which is cool. I haven't heard any of that. And then me and Aisha are doing a new project, which is fucking cool and weird and exciting, which we're going to announce in a few days.
Yeah, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
It's called?
It's called 180 dB or 180 dB.
And what's the underlying premise of it?
The underlying premise is, okay, so it's me and Aisha, drums and bass from Savages, and every track is a different supergroup. So it's our track coming out on the 21st of September involves, it's me and Aisha, drums and bass, and then Nick Zinner from Yeah Yeah Yeahs on guitar, and Meredith Graves from Perfect Pussy on vocals, and it's an absolute rager. Oh, and it was also written by Goldie, which is an interesting twist on it. It's a cover of a track that Goldie wrote with Skepta, and yeah, it's got this like mad mix of people who are involved in the process of it, and it's a raging punk track.
As somebody who seems to be relatively hard on herself, when you listen back to yourself recorded, how do you feel about it usually?
What, speaking or playing the drums?
Playing the drums.
Oh, I always think there could be things that are better. There's a few things that... Is there anything?
But do you get any sort of visceral enjoyment from it?
I love the drums on this new track, Road Trip, partly because...
The one with Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the track's called. It's called Road Trip. It's the new 180 dB track. And it's... I recorded them myself, like, on my V drums. So it's this kind of... I just got to fuck around with them and, like, cut little bits of drum fills and, like, put them in slightly the wrong place. So they've got this weird... I just really enjoy that kind of noodling around with things and cutting stuff out. And so I'm really happy I've had a drum sound on that, even though technically recording drums in a stereo feed off a V drum kit is not the best way I've ever recorded drums. But
what's the best?
I don't know. Like, it feels like you need to spend a lot of money to record anything properly, but I'm slowly realizing that's just not the case.
No,
it's not the case.
I bet lots of those of Montreal records were made for next to nothing.
Yeah.
What was the first thought that went through your mind this morning?
Oh, I'm not hungover.
Had you had a lot to drink last night?
No, not loads. I went out, though. I was out quite late.
How often are you hungover?
Oh, no, this is like therapy. Probably more than I want.
Really?
Yeah.
I recently stopped drinking for the time being. And
yeah.
It's actually pretty cool. I have so much more energy.
Oh, God. I did that for 2 months earlier this year. But, I intend to do that.
What made you drink again after that 2 months?
God. I don't know. It's just...
It's always something where it's just like, I'll just have a drink. Fine.
Yeah.
And then,
I find, like... family things.
Oh.
Because it's like, well, it's just family, you know, what can go wrong? But then it's like, well, then there's this. And
it's just family? What can go wrong? A lot. That's where everything goes wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you still pretty close with your family?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a really rare situation where, like, everyone's just nice and it's fine. So, yeah, it's nice. But, yeah, I don't know. It's when I go on tour, I don't really drink. There's times when I have, but like on the whole, just because I have to play a show every night, and I just get such a vibe from playing.
Mm-hmm. Do you get that vibe every night?
Yeah. I always really enjoy playing, no matter what gig it is or what it's like, and all of that adrenaline and energy pumping through your body and all that stuff. You actually like. I physically can't really drink after that because I get so hungover because I'm so dehydrated or whatever. Yeah, I need to get back on tour again, basically, to live the healthy life, which is weird.
What about with 180 dB?
Well, it's not really tourable because every track's got a different lineup.
Are you going to attempt to do a show where you get everybody to turn up?
It's going to have to be like headlining Coachella.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
April.
Yeah, no, man, it would be really, really nice to. I mean, I think it's going to sound like what you really would love to see live, but...
You could get holograms of everybody.
Get holograms.
Well,
Yeah.
you know the band Battles?
Yeah.
After their singer Ty left the group, they did an album where they had different singers for every song, and then
That's
they just
right.
got projections of those
Yeah.
people, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. I saw them on that thing. They were supported by Nissan and Mondai. Do you know them?
By who?
Nissan and Mondai,
No.
Japanese band.
No.
All female.
Oh, cool.
In inverting commas, Japanese
I was
band.
in a band that supported Battles here maybe
Really?
10, 11 years ago. Wow.
Cool what?
It was called Parts and Labor.
Oh, yeah, I've
We
heard
were
about
from
them,
New
yeah.
York.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, but anyway, that was before the singer left. So
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's an option. You could get a projection of all the different singers.
Yeah, but also at this point, it's like it is quite nice to do something that you don't have to think about touring.
Right,
Like touring
exactly.
doesn't make money for quite a long time.
Right. And it
It's-
also is just kind of fun to make something to make it, you know, and without thinking about what's the strategy for this. It's just
Yeah.
put it out into the world and then
Yeah.
move on.
Yeah, completely. I mean, there's a strategy, but it's like it doesn't have to involve touring. Also, touring's terrible for the environment.
It is?
Yes, it's really bad.
Do you think the environment is redeemable at this point?
Well, it's not. It's like scientifically not.
So why bother?
Because it's only going to be like the fucking 0.1% who survive, and that's just not fair.
Do you eat meat?
No.
So you're actually committed to the cause.
Yeah.
I think I was vegan and vegetarian for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then at one point I was just like, we're so doomed and
No.
I'm just going to eat meat again.
No, I need to prescribe a book for you. There's this amazing book called Hope in the Dark, which sounds like a really awful self-help book, but it's like about...
I'm totally into
it's
self-help
basically
books, actually.
the case for hope
Yeah.
about the world, but it was actually written during George Bush's era, so it's like completely like pre-Obama, pre-Trump. But it's the same shit now, basically. It's Rebecca Solnit, who's a great writer. But, there is a really
why
good
did
case
you-
for hope.
what
We
was
are
the-
moving forward, you know that.
What
The
was your
world isn't going
mindset
to shit.
before you read the book?
Oh, well, I'm part of a book club, and it was one of our,
got
one of our
it.
books. Yeah,
Okay.
and there's this amazing comedian whose name has temporarily escaped me, but she has a whole show about this book, and like it's just that everyone should read this book, and then just this like really right on, cool, hopeful, positive comedy show, which is quite hard to pull off, but she does it.
I'm pretty
Very
sure I
nice.
would agree with the thesis of that book, and I'm actually thinking of going back to being vegan soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's lots of things you can do. You don't have to be vegan. I mean, it helps.
Well, I also just think it's indefensible, and I've always thought that, even as I eat meat,
Yeah.
to eat other creatures
It's-
when you don't need to.
It's indefensible for like you and I.
Yeah.
Maybe like not for everyone in the world.
No,
necessarily.
but I'm saying when you have a wealth of options and you're still choosing the most exorbitant, needlessly exorbitant
Yeah.
options that cause suffering.
See, my like thing where I'm really, what's the word? Not hypocritical, but like my thing is like flying. Flying's awful, but I still fly places. I fly less because...
Do you feel guilty?
I was always making the excuse like, well, it's my job. I think it's good to have music played around the world. That's a positive thing.
Yeah, that's all true.
But then at the same time, it's like we can all make excuses for ourselves. So it is a really interesting question. And I'd really love to find a really good way of doing a VR, like live show experience.
Have you experimented with VR?
No, I've never even had a VR thing on my head.
I have no doubt that that'll happen in our lifetime.
Yeah.
That the live show experience in VR will happen,
Yeah.
for better or worse.
Maybe
But
180 dB is going to be the pioneer of that.
Maybe. That way you can have all the different singers singing from their bedrooms,
Yeah.
and the audience can be immersed in it. But yeah, I mean, a friend of mine is in the VR field, and I've tried it, and it was actually mind-blowing. It was
Yeah.
like, this is totally the paradigm shifter. It's going to make
Right.
a huge difference.
I mean, it hasn't made its way to England yet.
Yes, it has. What are you talking about?
I don't know. It hasn't made its way to me.
If only I didn't want the world, I wouldn't make you feel so sad. I'm sure my shame would be gone. Is he human to adore life? If only I'd hidden my love.
All right, so the first thought this morning was that you weren't hungover. Do you notice that there are certain thoughts that kind of cycle through your mind over and over throughout the day?
Yeah.
Like what?
So just laughing at my actual first thought. I've just remembered what it is. It's like, I was like, this is going to sound wrong at being my first thought. It's like, oh, that's not my boyfriend.
Oh, shit.
Not in that way. Like, when I got in, I filled like his jumper with a pillow and then trousers with a pillow and made this like fake boyfriend in the bed as well. Just because that's me. Anyway, and I woke up, I was like, who's that?
Did you take
like
a
the pillow.
marker and draw a smiley face on the pillow
No, it
as
had
well?
like, I've got this really small like Charlie Brown toy. So I had like a tiny Charlie Brown head on it. Anyway, that's welcome to my world. But repetitive thoughts, yeah, loads. Like, am I going to be too old to have babies? That's one of the things I think a lot of people who are my age think about repetitively.
Is having babies bad for the environment?
Oh, no, it's fine.
It's fine?
Yeah,
What if
it's
the
fine.
babies fly eventually and eat meat?
Well, by that logic, we should all just kill ourselves now.
But should we?
We
Are we a wicked
no,
species? Or
we
are
shouldn't kill ourselves now. We should.
Have we shown
We should
ourselves
evolve.
worthy as a species?
Not yet, but we will. I have
Okay,
faith.
the case for hope.
Yeah, the case for hope.
So, did lots of your friends have children?
No.
Because-
It's weird. Like all the guys that I grew up with have all settled down and had children, but all the girls are like, we're all flying around mainly. Just flying around in the sense of like doing careers.
I
Like,
thought you
not
were
settling
talking about
down.
flying from guy to guy, like Charlie Brown
Oh,
one
no.
night, your boyfriend another night.
No, like, yeah, like a lot of. Yeah, loads of my female friends don't want children at all.
But
I'm
do you
really in the
have you
middle.
always wanted to have children?
Yeah.
And do you feel like that you have to pick between having the career that you want and having children? Like, does it feel like society is imposing that on you?
I think logistics impose that more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I had a chat to Julie from Deep Valley because she was like pregnant and playing. She's had a beautiful baby now. And she's like, it's great. Your center of gravity gets really low and you can like play really steady. I was like, that sounds cool. Just like city life is tough. Like London life is tough. And like, yeah, just making all those things make sense. I think one of the things in music, it's like album cycles are almost like baby cycles or something. Like you have them 2 years apart. Like you have this bit of time with each one, and then
You
like
put a bunch of money into it.
a bunch of money into it.
There might be some shit involved.
Yeah. And so in a way, you're like, oh, maybe I can work this into our album cycles somehow, but then like that doesn't. I don't know. It's just, life's complicated, isn't it?
This is the first time I've been to the UK in about 5 years.
Oh, really?
And the last time I was here, I was on tour with a guitarist called Marnie Stern.
Right.
And at the time, she was, the thing that she kept saying is, I'm so sick of this shit. I just want to have a baby and like not be on tour. And she did it.
Yeah.
She did it. She found somebody, got married, and now she has 2 boys.
Right.
And she also works as a guitarist on a late night show in
Right.
New York. So she
Yeah.
figured out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And then I also produced a podcast hosted by a woman named Laura Veers, who's a
Right.
singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And the podcast was called Midnight Lightning, and it was her interviewing all women musicians that have children
Oh, that's
about
amazing.
the logistics of it, how they
Yeah.
make it work. And it's just, some people had children when they were 16
Yeah.
and just brought them on tour. And,
Yeah.
other people thought it out and had a whole plan, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
And they had to improvise. But I feel like it's definitely possible, and it's kind of like the thing that all of them had in common is you're never really ready. You're never like,
Yeah.
okay, now everything is set.
I
will have a baby.
I think one of the things people look for is stability.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be stable so I can do this in a stable way. But, like, it's quite hard to find stability when you're a musician.
Or when you're a person, really.
Or when you're a person. Yeah, like, in 2018. But, like, it's tough. Like, people in all walks of life are having to change their job, like, 5 times every 10 years.
Do you worry about things?
Oh, my God, I worry so much.
Is it constructive to worry?
It is. I've been very worried this week. I mean, I've got this single coming out and doing the artwork, and there's lots and lots of things, and it's quite easy to be like, I've got to do all the things. How's it all gonna happen? I'm like, I'm a drummer. Why am I designing a record sleeve? What's happening? But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Worry.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to worry by nature, but I've kind of learned to recognize what the worries are trying to tell me, and I've kind of gotten better at discarding it when I
Yeah.
need to, or recognizing, like, if I'm really afraid to do something and it seems like impossible, then that's exactly what I should do.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's like, I'm doing a lot of stuff I'm uncomfortable with.
And that's the
Like-
whole purpose of being alive, right?
Yeah, I think so. But then there's times you're like, why am I doing this? I'm so stressed. But then you're like, well, what the options are, like, stressed or bored. That seems to be the 2 options.
Yeah, stressed or feeling like you're missing out.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a long time, I think people choose to just recede sometimes,
Yeah.
They wonder how we do it.
What do you want to try next?
Well, I'm just really excited about doing this album, basically. We've got some really, really cool people who are going to do some vocals for us. And
Can you talk about who else?
not yet, no.
Okay.
No, until any of the songs are, like, done. I don't want to jinx it by saying anything. But yeah, just making all that happen.
What's a film or book that you've engaged with recently that's made an emotional impact on you?
What have I watched that's good? Oh my God, the film by Ai Weiwei. Have you seen it? It's about
the documentary. It's called
human flow. That's a fucking powerful film. It's like, why the fuck am I worrying about all this bullshit? Just seeing people with nowhere to go, nothing. And it sounds so dumb, but there's a scene when it's raining. And you're like, fuck. On top of everything else, it's fucking raining. And it's just heartbreaking that everyone's, like, wet. And they're going to remain wet, like, for the foreseeable until they just dry out. It's just, it's a really powerful film. And it's, I don't know, it just makes me think, just want to do this record and then go and do something about that. Go and help somehow or do something.
Do you think you will?
I don't know. A friend of mine went over to Greece and helped people off the boats, greeted people, and just, like, help them with stuff, and said it was the best thing he's ever done in his life. So from a selfish point of view, it's like looking for meaning in your life. Maybe you can find it by doing something really decent like that, and everyone wins. But it's really easy to say you're going to do stuff and then not do it, though. So.
Yeah, that's one of the easiest things. I'm really good at that. Well, if you had a time machine and you could go back to 10-year-old Fay's bedroom and give her a message, what would you tell her? If you only had like 30 seconds.
I don't know. Like, part of me thinks it would be like, when you think you should give up playing percussion, don't. Just keep going, because I feel like I wasted a lot of time, technique-wise, by stopping and starting again. If I'd just gone straight to the drum kit, I'd be so sick. But at the same time, maybe not, because I wouldn't have lived the life that I've had and the ups and downs.
Maybe you'd be too technical.
I might be a very boring drummer, but a more technical.
You might
very
be,
boring.
yes, okay.
So, I don't know,
You might just be on YouTube shredding, you know?
Yeah. Oh, you know what, actually? I really wanted to get into, like, music production when I was really young. Like, just at secondary school, so, like, 13, 14. Like, 12, 13, 14. And there were these computers in the school, and you could, like, they had some programs on, you could make beats and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I really wish I'd done it. But there was all these boys who were, like, really nerdy, and they were like, we're the computer guys in the music room. And, like, me and my friends just were like, okay, well, we'll wait for you guys to finish. But that never happened, so never ends up doing it. But I think if I'd started doing that when I was really young, I'd be really good at it now. Mm-hmm. And that would be great.
Or maybe you would have never discovered the trick of recording directly from your V drums into Logic. well, okay, if you could go 50 years into the future and ask future Fay a question, what would you ask?
Can you hear me?
Do you wear earplugs?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually really weird on the thing we did with Fred Armisen yesterday, where I was playing that drum kit with no earplugs in, because I'm so unused to that sound. I was like, this is loud. Yeah, no, 50 years in the future, just be like, was it worth the worry?
Yeah, or you could have been like, okay, the case for hope, true, not true.
Oh, God.
Was there a case for hope?
I guess it's asking
indeed?
a question, isn't it? 50 years in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's such a good question. Was it worth it? I think.
Closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts?
Yeah.
This is such a great interview. I love it.
I don't think it was an interview. It was a conversation.
A conversation, sorry.
Fay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The Trap Set is produced by me, Joe Wong, along with Chris Karwowski, who also edits the program. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Trap Set, and visit our website, thetrapset.net, to subscribe to our show for free. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please donate to our show. If you can't afford to donate, please tell a friend and give us a good rating on iTunes. Send your feedback and guest requests to thetrapset@gmail.com.